tonight's meditation time, I would invite you just to settle in wherever you are, wherever you've kind of found this spot in your home, and just sit comfortably. If you're seated in a chair, you can let your feet touch the ground. If you're seated on the ground or on the couch, maybe you cross your legs, but do something that feels comfortable to your physical body. And once you've kind of navigated and you found that spot, let's just gently close our eyes. And we're going to settle in for these first few breaths, just each of us in our own space, trying to connect to the inhale and the exhale and the present moment. Because that really is what our meditation practice is all about. One breath at a time, one moment at a time. And just kind of notice, how does it feel across these first few breaths? For some of us, we rush, the alarm goes off, the reminder comes, and we rush to stop the activity, to arrive. And so just give yourself some grace. Slow the breath down and settle in. And for some of us, it's been a long and tiring day. And again, the alarm and the reminder goes off, and we need to keep our energy engaged so we can truly experience the present moment. So whichever of those sounds a little more like you, either side, give yourself grace. And now let's start to breathe with a little more intention collectively. So let's take a slow, deep breath in, and then just sigh it out. And another slow, deep breath in, and sigh it out. One more like that. Deep breath in, and sigh it out. And then settle into a rhythm of breath that feels right for you, your physical self, your emotional self, your mental self, whatever you need. And so we've been looking over these last few days about the idea of old and new, all in line with the spring equinox that was on Tuesday, this arrival of the new season, a change in what's going on for us as far as the light in our day. And so I want to just stay with that in these moments that we have tonight and explore the idea of our habits. And so I encouraged the group that was here on Tuesday just to think about really being willing to let go of the old so that you can make space for the new, the same way that you would cleaning out a garden or cleaning out your closet for new things, whatever the analogy is that works for you. But oftentimes our intentions with that are really good, but we've got habits and patterns that get in the way of it. And so as you're settling into your space with your eyes just gently closed and your breath steady, just listen to this quote about habits. It says, once we realize that habits can change, we have both the freedom and the responsibility to change them. And so let's start first with the realization. Just think about that. That should almost bring a smile to your face to think that our habits can change. Just think about where you are in your life right now and the habits you had 10 years ago, 10 months ago. We are different people now. And so we know with certainty habits can change. But then the quote goes on and puts the accountability back on us. And first, let's just sit with the idea of the freedom that once we realize our habits can change, we have the freedom to change them. We have all been through so many different things in our life. We've experienced good and bad and traumatic and joyful things. And those things tend to make these thumbprints or these grooves on our mind. And then from those thumbprints, habits form. But in the same way that you can let old traumas and old disappointments go, you can also have the freedom to change old habits, to lessen the impact of those thumbprints and those grooves on your brain. You can create new pathways. Start to establish new normal for you. So just sit for a second with these next few breaths and just think, I have the freedom to change my habits. It's my choice. I get to do it. But then the last part of that quote is really where the accountability starts to kind of touch our hearts and prick us in the mind just a little bit, when it says that when you realize that habits can change, you have the responsibility to change them. I've sat a lot over these last few weeks just thinking about what patterns in my life are serving me really well and which patterns are not. Which patterns are actually getting in the way of how I want to grow and how I want to develop and who I want to be. But y'all, those patterns and those habits are familiar. And even though each of us can recognize the ones that are not good for us, the ones that are not helping us grow and develop, the familiarity of them makes them really hard to turn loose of. But the reminder tells us it's our responsibility to begin to change them. There's so many parts of our life that when we know something's not good for us, we shy away from it. We do something different. We push it away. We keep it out of our space. But the tough thing about habits is that they're already so far in our space that it's often hard to separate from them. And so I started off tonight with telling you to give yourself grace for however you're feeling energetically after a long, hard day. And I would ask that you continue that same idea of grace when it comes to changing our habits. It's not a fast process. It's not an easy answer. And it's not about replacing something with something else. But it is about befriending yourself to a level that you like yourself so much and you believe in the value that you have that you can't imagine continuing these habits that get in the way of your growth. And so what I'd like for us to do across these next few minutes is we're not going to answer the question of what these habits are. That's not the purpose of meditation. The meditation purpose is just to ask the questions and then to be open to whatever comes into our mind. Not to act on it, not to judge it, just to see it and witness it. So let's take a few more breaths together, and then I'm going to pose a couple questions to us. And then we'll each just sit in our own space, trying our very best to stay present and breathing and attentive to the present moment. And see if you notice something that comes up in your mind. So let's take a long, slow breath in again. And sigh it out. One more long, slow breath in. And sigh it out. And ask ourselves, what habits, what patterns in my life are serving me well? Which habits, which patterns in my life are truly serving me well? And while we're not going to spend time answering, I do want to affirm every person that's listening to this. The habit of showing up to meditation, I can assure you, is one that's serving you well. It's allowing you to click the button to pause the busyness of life, to become open and connected to yourself a little more. So I say that so that you realize there are many habits that you have that truly are serving your purpose and serving you well. So let's just sit for the next few breaths and let that question just hang in the air. And again, without trying to answer it, just be still and notice whatever comes up in your mind. And then continuing to breathe, rooted down in that spot where you are, asking the question, which habits no longer serve the purpose in my life today? Which habits no longer serve the purpose in my life today? And again, we're not going to make a list. We're not going to check things off. But I want you to listen to how I phrase the question just one more time. Which habits no longer serve the purpose for my life today? And I frame it that way because I don't want you to feel guilty or bad about these habits, because some of these, there was a time that you needed them and they were necessary. And then over time, you continue to change and develop and grow. And those are not the habits that you need anymore. So don't discount, don't be negative about yourself. Don't judge yourself for whatever these things are that kind of arise in your mind. Just be aware of them and sit and breathe for just the next little bit. And then finally, the last question says, am I willing to exercise my freedom and my responsibility to begin to make some changes? Am I willing to exercise my freedom and my responsibility to begin to make some changes? And again, don't answer it. I know we all want our heart just to jump forward with a big yes, but don't answer it. Just ask yourself the question again and again across these next moments. See what arises in your mind and stay grounded with your breath. Just continue to sit there with your eyes gently closed. And just release the questions, let them go. Any thoughts that came up in your mind, let those go as well. And then I would encourage each of us, me included, over these coming days, just keep asking the questions. What are the habits that are serving me well? Which ones no longer serve my purpose? And am I willing to do something about it? When you think about this idea of these habits, let's think about it from the idea that we have the freedom and the responsibility to begin to make changes. This is not anyone else's journey. It's not anyone else's plan. No one gets to answer the questions for you. You have the freedom to make the changes. And oftentimes, we want to make the changes, but we're not yet quite sure about our purpose and our path. And so we're not sure which things to change. So this is not a fast process. So maybe one of the things you keep asking is, I want to figure out what my purpose is. Not my job, not my responsibilities, my purpose. Each one of us has a unique path in this daily life, a unique purpose to serve. Let the habits that we continue to nurture serve that purpose as well. Namaste.